3 counties, 24 cities, working together, accomplishing more than any of us could alone. Whether your roots run generations deep, or you recently moved to Greater Portland, you are a part of Metro, the nation's only regional government elected by the people. Planning for the future, preserving what we love. Let's keep our region thriving for decades to come.
I'm Laura Lepley, a Metro Park Ranger. Here at Oxbow Park, safety is our #1 priority, not only for our guests, but for our staff members. I'm at the Welcome Center and you're at the Regional Center. The council chambers are located on the 3rd floor. In the event of a fire or fire alarm, please exit through the door in the northeast corner of the room. Go down the stairway to the 2nd floor, exit through the main entrance by the reception desk, and gather in the courtyard outside that entrance. In the event of a medical or fire emergency, please call 911 and notify the security agent at the reception desk. The nearest defibrillator is mounted on the steps leading from the reception desk down to Grand Avenue. Thank you, and come visit us at Oxbow Park.
Council business meeting of March 12th, 2026 to order. Georgia, will you please call the roll?
Absolutely. Counselor Simpson?
Present, good morning.
Counselor Nolan?
Present.
Counselor Rosenthal?
Present. Good morning.
Counselor, good morning. Counselor Gonzalez?
Present. Good morning.
Counselor Wong?
Present.
Counselor Lewis?
Present.
Council President Peterson?
Here, thank you. With that, we will move on. Before we begin today's business meeting, I am delighted to welcome students, families, and staff from the Korean Society of Oregon who have chosen to spend their morning with Metro learning about civic engagement and seeing local government at work. Councilors Gonzalez and Rosenthal visited with the Korean Society of Oregon's Beaverton offices in December and extended today's invitation. The Korean American Youth Ambassadors Program for middle and high school students interested in civic engagement, public service, and community leadership. This is their first visit to Metro to better understand how regional government serves our communities and how leadership can create lasting impact. This morning, they took a special tour of the Oregon Convention Center, chatted with counselors, and will observe parts of today's council session. A special thank you for being here today as our visitors. Welcome. I expect to see you all up here in 10 years. With that, we will now open public communications on non-agenda items. Georgia, will you please describe to the audience our procedures for public communications?
Absolutely. If you are testifying on non-agenda items, now is the time to do so. If you are testifying in person, you can sign up by filling out a blue card in the back of the room and bringing it up to me. If you are testifying on Zoom or by phone, please sign up by using the raise hand function in the reaction or more menu or by dialing *9. When it is your turn to testify, I'll call in your name or phone number. For those on Zoom, click accept to be promoted to a panelist. Your Zoom window will close briefly before you rejoin as a panelist, and you can turn on your camera if you'd like. Testimony is limited to 3 minutes. The timer begins when you begin speaking. There are timers located on the tables, on the wall, and on the digital screen. Please state your name for the record before testifying. You do not need to give your physical address. And Council President Peterson, we do have one person who's signed up to testify on non-agenda items, and that is Matt Henderson. So you can come up to any of these 4 and your time will begin. You begin speaking. Mm-hmm.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Greetings, Metro Council members. I'm Matt Henderson. I'm a renter at Lloyd Center Mall. and I'm also a lead organizer of the Save Lloyd campaign, which is a grassroots initiative to try to save Lloyd Center Mall from closure and demolition. Between the Save Lloyd Center Mall and Save Lloyd Ice Rink petitions, we have over 10,000 signatures from Portlanders who want to see some meaningful part of Lloyd Center preserved and saved from demolition. Having attended your Tuesday meeting and learned more about the vital work that Metro does and how your values factor into the recently passed Resolution 265570, we feel Portland Metro could play a leading role in uplifting Lloyd Center as a community fixture and asset within our city. Your critical capacities as both a convener and funder that continues to center racial equity and climate goals and supports inclusive, broad-based job creation and retention, economic mobility, and shared prosperity is in perfect alignment with the current needs of the community with regard to Lloyd Center. Specifically, we became aware that not only is Metro interested in the concept of a reuse mall, but the concept was, as far as we could tell, adopted into your strategic plan as a priority. An incredible opportunity exists at Lloyd Center, and it is about to be entirely overwritten by an out-of-state institutional financial monolith with seemingly zero stake in how this master plan and its wasteful demolition will impact our city and its cultural vitality. We have been calling upon city officials for the past couple months and have experienced a dismal response, with the exception of a few city council members who have supported us. Shout out Tiffany Koyama Lane. Thank you, Tiffany, for being an early supporter of Save Lloyd. But we also understand there's a lot going on in our city and in the world presently, and in fact, we are in a recession with no end in sight. We'd like to highlight Lloyd Center as a bright beacon of hope in these bleak times and explain its potential to offer innovative solutions to our depressed city. We are here today to ask you to come to the table with our group and to quickly determine whether there is potential and interest to work together to help preserve Lloyd Center's legacy. For the past year, this mall has been on an upward swing despite the ownership's every effort to resolve to close it. And we can't stress enough how critical the time window is on this. Can we find a time to meet with Metro at the earliest possible opportunity? Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you. Is that it?
Yes, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think we had said on Tuesday that we had your contact, so if you can just make sure you've got your contact to Georgia so we can follow up with staff.
Appreciate that.
Thank you. Seeing no one else?
No one else?
Okay, I will close public testimony on non-agenda items and move on to our first resolution, which is number 26-5567 for the purpose of adopting oversight and accountability measures and agenda priorities for the Supportive Housing Services Regional Policy and Oversight Committee. Following our work session discussions over the last several weeks, Council will today consider a resolution that provides additional direction to Metro's housing team for implementation of the Supportive Housing Service Reforms Work Plan as adopted in December 2025. Deputy President Huang and Councilor Gonzalez are the sponsors of this resolution, and I will now turn it over to Deputy President Huang.
Great, thank you, Madam President. Colleagues, just to refresh our memories, this resolution's journey stemmed from conversations in December, where we passed a resolution to create the Regional Policy and Oversight Committee and kind of set the initial work plan. This resolution today is an accompaniment to that work to continue mapping out the work we hope can be done to create the best regional system possible. We had work sessions on February 24th and March 3rd to incorporate feedback and edits, and I want to thank all my colleagues for all your contributions to make this piece of legislation. This final resolution has received review from our staff and OMA, and there's some minor clarifications, but none of which are substantive in nature from our last discussion. I just want to recognize also that we've received formal letters from Multnomah, Clackamas, and Washington counties requesting to delay this resolution vote. Several councilors have been in direct conversation with their county counterparts to hear their concerns, which will lead to an amendment from Councilor Lewis to address some of the concerns and clarify legislative intent. We've also received a letter of support from our partners at Here Together, the Coalition of Communities of Color, and the Portland Metro Chamber, and several folks are here to testify today. So I think this has been an exercise in collaboration and communication, and I think I'll leave it at that for now. Turn over to Councilor Lewis.
Sure, thank you so much, Councilor. In result of receiving letters from all three counties, but most particularly Clackamas County, I had the opportunity for a significant meeting with Commissioner Ben West at Clackamas yesterday, specifically focused on the language around the RIF and the edits that had been made. So I'm bringing today an amendment to the resolution 2655-67, passing it down here. Just some clarifying language that does not affect the intent of what we were talking about with the RIF. But the amendment affects the second item relating to Regional Investment Fund governance and alignment, located on page 3 of the original. And we're adding a few words for clarification, and we're striking some. So it will now read, Metro Council directs staff, after consultation with county staff, to recommend to RPOC consideration of governance and management models for the Regional Investment Fund to better achieve regional outcomes. We're going to strike, quote, with a goal of transitioning funding decisions and disbursement responsibilities to Metro. And then we will continue. Staff must present the RPOC recommendations on governance and management model frameworks to Metro Council by September 30th, 2026. So that amendment makes it clear that what we're moving forward with the RIF is Metro with the guidance of RPOC and not Metro Council acting alone. Colleagues, any questions? This is language that is in the spirit of what Clackamas County via Commissioner West believe that they can support. It's the clarity that they need.
No questions? Oh, I'm sorry.
Do you want me to?
Oh, please, yes. Sorry, Madam President.
Councilor Nolan, did you have a question for Councilor Lewis?
Yes, I did, Madam Chair. Thanks. Councilor Lewis, you said that the amendment doesn't change the intent, but I think it does by the words that were that you proposed to strike, because striking those words leaves the expectation more ambiguous and subject to interpretation. Is that the intent of the language?
The intent of the language is to say this work of bringing the RIF to a regional level is through the RPOC and not solely at the discretion of the Metro Council. So using the RPOC Metro kind of co-governance arrangement that is set up in the previously adopted governance reforms.
Any further follow-up? We do have a time to talk more about this after a motion has been made. Yeah. So I just want to encourage us to ask clarifying questions now, and we can talk about this more when we get to getting a motion on an amendment to the actual resolution. So, Councilor Rosenthal, do you want to ask a question now?
I'll wait till the motion is made.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions online? Okay. Councilor Gonzalez, did you have any further remarks?
No, I motion that we approve the.
We need to go through public comment
Okay,
first.
sorry.
Yeah,
I was going to say the amendment, but okay. Thank you.
yeah. So if there's no other questions for Councilor Lewis on the amendment, then I would ask the the folks that we go into public comment. Georgia, would you like to introduce public comment?
Absolutely. Also, we do have copies of the amendment here if anyone would like to see it. If you are testifying in person on resolution number 26-5567, now is the time to do so. Please sign up by filling out a blue card in the back of the room and bringing it up to me. If you are testifying on Zoom or by phone, please sign up by using the raise hand function in the reactions or more menus, or by dialing *9. When it is your turn to testify, I'll call in your name or phone number. For those on Zoom, click accept to be promoted to a panelist. Your Zoom window will close briefly before you rejoin as a panelist, and you can turn on your camera if you'd like. Testimony is limited to 3 minutes, and the timer begins when you begin speaking. Please state your name for the record before testifying. You do not need to give your physical address. And Council President Peterson, we do have some folks who have signed up to testify, as well as some invited testimony. The first person to be called up is Angela Martin.
Good morning.
Good rainy morning, right? Good morning, Angela Martin, the Executive Director of Here Together. I want to start by thanking the Council and Metro staff for running a process that genuinely included everyone's voice. The reforms adopted in December and those before you today move us meaningfully closer to a system that can deliver what the public, providers, stakeholders, and people experiencing homelessness actually need. In advance of this hearing, I submitted to Council a sign-on letter co-circulated by Here Together and Portland Metro Chamber, signed by dozens of partners and members who have been with us throughout this now 2-year process. They supported the December reforms and what you're voting on today, including the amendment before you. I'll speak specifically to that in a second. First, I want to speak to what providers have been sharing with me, because these are not abstract policy changes. They will have real impact on the work happening on the ground every day. First, continuous improvement, which, to be honest, sounded like a buzzword to me when I first heard it. But the resolution that before you today puts this word into action. I've heard directly from providers who have transformed their operations when given the opportunity and the resources to adopt a continuous improvement process. Some have used continuous improvements to decrease the time from client intake to delivery of services, and others have used it to improve accounting policies that in the old days were resulting in delayed payments to landlords, and now have right-sized their internal process to make those payments on time and with a lot less effort. This resolution makes those opportunities available to the entire system at a moment when every efficiency matters and every dollar has to go further. This is not a small thing. The next thing I want to speak to is accountability and what it actually means if we want the public to trust this system. Public trust in this program depends on one thing: people being able to see that it's working and knowing that everyone responsible for making it work is being held to the same standard. That means accountability cannot stop at the regional level. It has to run all the way through Metro, the new Oversight Committee, counties, and providers. Everyone in the system answerable to the same clear set of expectations. On the provider side, one of the most persistent frustrations we hear is that contracting practices vary across the region, organizations delivering identical services, working under different expectations and reporting requirements. That's not accountability, that's confusion. And it makes it harder, not easier, to know what's working. We support the new committee moving quickly to establish performance metrics that are meaningful, consistent, and fair. The third thing I want to speak to is the Regional Investment Fund, the amendment before you today, and why it matters that we get this right. The Regional Investment Fund was born from a vision that some problems are regional in nature and deserve regional solutions. Now, SHS funding has allowed each county to grow its homeless services system in ways that simply weren't possible before. Clackamas and Washington counties were able to build systems they did not have the resources to develop prior to SHS. Each county has its own population, its own challenges, its own local context, and that flexibility matters. But homelessness doesn't stop at county lines. There are regional problems that require regional responses, and the RIF is the mechanism to make those cross-county investments. We support directing new oversight committee to develop a new governance model and a set of guiding principles for how the fund is invested. I believe the new committee, working together, can debate and develop a proposal that returns us to that original intent, applying a regional lens where it's needed most. We're at a real reflection point. The reforms before you today give us better tools, a stronger committee, clearer accountability, and a framework for continuous improvement. But tools only work if we use them well. Here Together and our partners are committed to staying engaged, holding ourselves to the same high standard we're asking from the system, and helping make sure these reforms deliver. I'll end my remarks there, but certainly happy to answer any questions.
Sandra.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have John Isaacs.
Good morning, Metro President Peterson and councilors. My name is John Isaacs, and I'm the Executive Director of Public Affairs for the Portland Metro Chamber. I'm a resident of Southeast Portland, and I prefer he, him. The Portland Metro Chamber is Greater Portland's Chamber of Commerce and represents the largest, most diverse network of businesses in the region. The Alliance advocates at all levels of government to support commerce, community health, and the region's overall prosperity. We represent more than 2,300 members from 27 counties, 13 states, and virtually all industry sectors. More than 81% of our members are small businesses defined by employers of 10 employees or less. On behalf of our members and partners, I'm here today to express the Chamber's strongest possible support for Resolution 265567. This resolution, for the very first time, will require transparent, outcomes-based success metrics connected to a system that will track and measure performance, and a regional corrective action framework that will boost accountability and performance for the Regional Supportive Homeless Services Program. I'm going to walk us through some history today, okay? 6 years ago, the Chamber, under the leadership of a brand new CEO who had just arrived here from Brooklyn, New York, made the extraordinary decision to step up and claim a true leadership role in solving the most pressing crisis in our region: widespread and persistent unsheltered homelessness. We were involved with every step of the negotiated drafting of the SHS measure, and the final agreement was reached in the Chamber's conference room. Chamber CEO and President Andrew Hone agreed to serve as the chief spokesperson of the campaign and even debated some statewide business groups who opposed the measure. We were told then by county leaders that they had a plan, that we knew what the solutions were, and all we lacked was the will to provide the generational level of funding necessary to implement these solutions and solve homelessness in the region. The slogan for the campaign was "End Homelessness." Voters said yes. About 2 years ago, after it was clear that none of this was true, no plan existed, and no clear understanding of the solutions existed, we even began to hear comments suggesting that the measure was never intended to end homelessness and it was never enough money to solve the problem. Combined with flashing red economic indicators that predicted the region was falling into a recession, resulting in declining revenues, declines that we are experiencing now, it was clear that the measure that we celebrated as a generational win in 2020 was on a path towards political and organizational collapse. To make matters worse, the public was repeatedly exposed to bitter internal turf wars and finger-pointing between local governments across the region. With this crisis coming straight at us, the homeless service provider community, represented by Here Together, and the business community, represented by the Chamber, Portland Metro Association of Realtors, and several other regional business partners, chose to put our differences aside, identify areas of agreement, and formed a coalition to push for radical change to right the ship before it was too late. It was crystal clear to business and service providers that public disillusionment would continue to grow if we did not act to strengthen regional collaboration, transparency, accountability, and adopt a laser focus on making unsheltered homelessness the top priority. Can I continue? Thank you.
Please finish up, thanks.
I said before this council on October 16, 2024, quote, "The status quo is clearly unacceptable, and it is incumbent upon us to course correct to save this historic resource. As the funders of this program, the business community's frustration is at a breaking point. We promised voters we would measurably address homelessness, and we must make major changes to convince the public we are on track to deliver on that promise. In my testimony, we also called for these specific improvements: strengthen collaborative, transparent oversight that includes leaders representing the key stakeholders, Oversight that honors the true intent of the original measure and historic regional resource that follows an agreed-upon regional plan with transparent, measurable outcomes. We also called for right-sizing the tax rate so it can be sustained over a multi-decades timeframe and indexing the qualifying income threshold to inflation. We endorsed a 20-year extension at a 0.25% lower rate. We know what happened with that proposal. This resolution today is completely aligned with these reform priorities and will provide a clear direction to the new governing body that the Metro Council already approved. This follows critical action by this council last year on meaningful tax reform. In 2025, the council delivered on its promise to deliver this meaningful reform by indexing the tax to inflation, a standard policy that protects taxpayers from being subject to a tax increase simply through the rising cost of living or standard cost of living increases in their compensation. This has provided meaningful tax relief to thousands of middle-class residents and will continue to do so. The Chamber could not be prouder to have collaborated with Angela Martin and a team of our most important homeless service providers in the region to drive these critical reforms forward in collaboration with the leaders on this council. This series of reforms have been adopted since we worked with you to drive a call to action culminating in this accountability resolution today. These are deeply important, concrete improvements that have given the SHS measure a political lifeline, have already resulted in improved performance that we see the community recognizing in surveys, and have provided tax relief to thousands of taxpayers. Now, with the adoption of this resolution, the fate of the SHS measure with voters will depend entirely on urgent implementation and the results seen by the community. I want to close my testimony with some recognitions. Our former board member, Andrew Rowe, whose deep understanding of effective systems, outcomes-based service delivery, and health policy were recognized by the Chamber Board of Directors when he was approved as our formal representative to President Peterson's Reform Steering Committee and who contributed significantly to this resolution. I want to thank President Peterson, who had the foresight and strength and leadership to recognize the breadth of the crisis and took on what was a thankless job in pushing a genuine reform discussion forward. And I want to thank current incoming Council President Duncan Wong, Councilor Juan Carlos Gonzalez, Councilor Lewis, and Councilor Ashton Simpson, who dove into these very difficult discussions at different times and supported us in our push for change. Your actions and confidence in your convictions has been one of the most genuine demonstrations of strong leadership I have had the privilege to have a front row seat to in my career at one of the most critical times, and we thank you deeply. For these reasons, the Chamber affirms our ongoing commitment to the success of the Supportive Homeless Services measure and the regional program it supports. We strongly encourage you to vote aye. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Alex Fan.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, President Peterson and council members for allowing me to testify today. My name is Alex Fan. I'm a resident of Washington County, small business owner, father, and a huge supporter for homeless providers since 2018. I also want to thank President Peterson for appointing me to the SHS Reform Work Group this last year. It allowed me the opportunity to help shape some of these recommendations today. You know, as our region continues to struggle with homelessness, we need a homelessness response system that is compassionate, accountable, effective, and worthy of public trust. I support this resolution because it tackles the critical operational gaps and will give the Regional Policy and Oversight Committee the ability to improve how the system works. First, it creates the Public Performance Dashboard with standardized regional metrics so providers, policymakers, and the public are working from the same data. A public-facing dashboard will improve transparency, strengthen trust with taxpayers and voters, and help keep everyone focused on outcomes. Second, it advances reforms to the Regional Investment Fund, so that way regional dollars can be managed and deployed more strategically. Streamlining Regional Investment Fund will help get resources where they are needed faster. Third, it establishes a continuous improvement framework that Angela mentioned that invests in training, technical assistance, and implementation support, and recognizes that frontline providers are often the best positioned to identify barriers. We should design a system that listens to that expertise and gives providers the support that they need to improve performance. Finally, it directs the development of a clearer accountability framework with more consistent expectations, monitoring, and corrective action processes. These are reforms that providers, business leaders, and community stakeholders have been asking for a long time. If we're serious about housing everyone, then we need to be just as serious about building a system that can actually deliver, with transparency, accountability, and continuous improvement at its core. I urge you to adopt this resolution.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Anna Kurzinski, and I think that Anna is on. Perfect, I was about to say. Okay, I'm going to promote you now.
Thank you, and good morning, Metro Councilors. For the record, I am Anna Kronitsky, Executive Director of Community Warehouse, our Metro area's only furniture bank. I'm here to support Resolution 5567 and the Regional Policy and Oversight Committee it establishes. This resolution offers a critical opportunity to fix systemic gaps in regional SHS implementation, but only if it creates clear, supported pathways for identifying and funding proven essential regional services. RIF does hold $18 million annually, which is far too much for regional planning alone. We need some of these dollars flowing to regional services that directly stabilize housing. Community Warehouse has spent 4 years advocating for a regional SHS contract that would standardize service across all 3 counties, create efficiency, and ensure every SHS qualified household moves into a furnished home. In December 2024, we presented testimony to the TCPB with a letter signed by over 100 housing agencies and advocates urging immediate action. The co-chairs committed to moving it forward immediately, and instead progress stalled, in part due to governance reforms and change during that time. More than a year later, here's our situation. We have a successful Washington County SHS contract, 3 years of proven results with 36% more homes furnished, wait times reduced to under 1 week, and 20 partner agencies freed from administrative burdens. But we have no contracts with Multnomah and Clackamas, and a regional contract hasn't moved forward despite documented need and stakeholder support. We're stuck in limbo while many of our agencies are telling us due to federal and other cuts, they may not be able to get clients furniture anymore. People experiencing furniture poverty currently, 20% of Americans and nearly everyone coming out of homelessness are less likely to move into and maintain housing. Metro has taken this pause to reconfigure RIF and its governance. That is great. But if this year-plus long process ends in the same place with funding held back, no clear pathway for proven solutions, and essential services like Community Warehouse still unable to access regional contracts, that would be a profound failure. SHS is our region's opportunity to deliver comprehensive housing solutions. We need the structural flexibility to make it happen. I urge you to ensure this resolution and subsequent RPOC directives create explicit pathways for regional services that serve the entire system, including cross-county supports like furniture provision. Let's move these millions into action that serves our community. Thank you all for your leadership on SHS reform. This is very important, and we are here to partner with you in making this system work better for everyone. And shout out to the Save Lloyd Center. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Council President Peterson, that concludes the testimony signups for this agenda item.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for everybody who came forward. It has been quite a journey to get us to this point. And I just wanted to thank my counselors for taking up the torch and running forward with it after the first round of reforms, and digging into the specifics that we need to get going on as soon as possible in order to get results out in the field as soon as possible. So I will, at this point, call for a motion on the resolution itself, number 26-5567.
I move to
I
adopt.
move adoption. Nolan, oh,
I
sorry.
had 3 people, and I actually heard Councilor Gonzalez first. Councilor Gonzalez moved. Do I have a second?
Second?
It's been seconded by Councilor Rosenthal. Councilors, we can now have a conversation about the amendment, which means does anybody have any questions on the actual resolution itself first, or comments on it? On the actual resolution before we get to the amendment?
What's the appropriate time to make general comments on the,
It'd be
I would
nice
rather
to-
make it on the
it'd be
amended
nice- It would be nice to make a motion, have somebody make a motion on the amendment and
Yes.
and get a second.
Well, then I'll move this amendment, as read before, to page 3, second item regarding the Regional Investment Fund governance and alignment. For the record, it's adding after consultation with county staff, to recommend to RPOC, consideration of governance and management models for the Regional Investment Fund, to better achieve regional outcomes. It removes the rest of that line, and then it continues, staff must present the RPOC recommendations on governance and management model frameworks to Metro Council by September 30th of 2026.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Georgia, will you please call the roll on the proposed amendment?
Hello?
Should we have a conversation first?
The
Or do
discussion
you want-
first?
Do you want discussion first?
No, not on
Okay.
the amendments.
Yes, on the amendment.
On the amendment, okay. Counselor Nolan.
Thanks, Madam Chair.
Actually,
In the context of the letters we all received from the different counties, who each in their own way, to me, seem to be expressing a desire and an assertion that they each have separate parts of the SHS program, and they want Metro to not interfere with their parts of it. It's my interpretation of the memo, the letters we received from each of the three counties. All of them say it differently, but the message is very similar. That seems contrary to our discussion woven through all of our work sessions since December on this topic, that we are committed to a regional plan that addresses homelessness on a regional perspective. The amendment that's proposed seems to reinforce that there are parts of the SHS program that are county and Metro has to keep its hands off. I don't support that interpretation. I don't support that as policy. And I'm concerned also about whether the amendment, maybe inadvertently, in the language that's chosen, gives more sway to the RPOC than was originally intended. For example, the amendment says that staff shall present RPOC recommendation to the Metro Council. It doesn't say that staff can't present other alternatives, but it could be interpreted to imply that. I don't think the Metro Council should be constrained to considering only ideas or proposals that the RPOC brings forward. There could come a time, and in fact, I expect there will, where there's a disagreement between our collective perspective on a regional program and what members of the county, representatives of the counties, and perhaps the RPOC see moving forward. And I don't want to cede our authority or our responsibility to the RPOC. I'd welcome, if I'm misunderstanding this, if someone could explain that. But unless I get an explanation, I can't support the amendment, although I do support the underlying resolution.
Before we move on to Counselor Rosenthal, who has his hand up, Counselor Lewis, did you want to?
Sure, thank you. The underlying resolution still gives RPOC a significant amount of authority and balance in the goal areas of where we're going to spend the RIF. We have outlined that the RIF 6 goals from the Tri-County Planning Body should be reviewed by RPOC and either reaffirmed or edited. And it sounds to me like your concern is not in the subject matter of those 6 areas and the programming that is supported by them, but instead you are worried that we would want to make funding decisions, not program decisions, separate from RPOC. And I don't think that was ever the intent. This is the set aside for regional investment and regional frameworks that support all 3 counties and the work that they do. And it sounds like that's where your fundamental disagreement is. But I will underscore, even the original work still had RPOC affirming and directing programmatic spending within these 6 areas and any additional areas they'd like to add.
Okay, thank you for the clarification on the intent. We've got Councilor Rosenthal, Councilor Gonzalez, and Councilor Huang.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to say I support this amendment because I read it somewhat differently. I read it as just emphasizing the fact that this is going to be a collaborative process. It's going to be back and forth, and that both RPOC as well as the counties will have voices that we will want to listen to. I do not think this council, in its current or in its future form, is going to be less committed to a regional approach. The art is in balancing the regional approach with the needs of individual counties and individual populations. So I think this amendment moves a bit more in that direction and shows a little bit more that we want to hear the voices that are going to be raised and that have this consideration. And so I would support this amendment.
Thank you. Councilor Gonzalez.
Thanks, President Peterson. I mean, first I want to thank Councilor Lewis for helping to thread the needle here. You know, in my perspective, the amendment does meet the intent of the legislation as originally. I know Councilor Wong and I had been working, and I'm curious to hear as well his reflections as a author and co-sponsor of this. I think primarily, you know, I come back to our December legislation, which one created the RPOC, but also helped to define what that work plan would be with some of the timelines that we have. And then this body of work is building off of that initial legislation, which was, again, what is the work plan for RPOC? So I do think that the language reflecting the relationship between Metro and the RPOC is important. I think that it clarifies what I think our original intent was in terms of that. And, you know, I want to remind the council too that in establishing this new oversight structure, we selected a bit of a concurrence model similar to JPAC, which has a decision-making sharing, power sharing with RPOC in terms of how the region moves forward. And I think that we're going to need to have that balance. And also we're setting probably the most consequential table for homelessness of this decade. And it's going to be the most urgent space to negotiate and really hash out these things about how this system moves forward, because it needs to move forward. So just to kind of land my comments here, I just want to thank Councilor Lewis for doing the hard work to help create a better reflection, and I support the amendment.
Thank you. Councilor Huang.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President. And when I was drafting this original language, you know, if I had a magic wand, I would love the RIF to be back at Metro as per the original intent. But unfortunately, that's not the situation that we're in. And, you know, I've had a lot of conversations with our legal department and as well as our partners. And I think I know where we need to get to, but how we get there now requires some really deep conversation and thinking. I think for the RIF right now, you know, if we're hearing from our county partners that they're already contractually obligated, and I want to better understand what that means to disrupt potentially existing contracts that are probably going to worthy projects, just not regional projects necessarily, and what that would mean. So I think it's worth having kind of that deep dive, and I think that the original intent is still here, where it's like we're going to bring a framework back to council to discuss in collaboration. But then, yeah, we don't have that magic wand, unfortunately, and we have to work through a process and get that buy-in. So I think I'm okay with this amendment as proposed.
Thank you. Councilor Lewis?
Yeah, thank you. I would like to just speak a little bit more in specifics. The meeting I had at Clackamas County, I was able to learn about the very specific funding investments that they've made. And obviously our intent of having this conversation start in September at the council level, conclude at the RPOC level at the end of summer, is to be ahead of next budget season. So I want to provide a surety that the counties in the budget that we're all embarking on right now, due 4 months from now, are not changing. So under coordinated entry, Clackamas County pays for case conferencing staff. They've paid for HMIS migration project. They've paid for a program called Housing for Success, which was approved by the Tri-County Planning Body to support limited duration programming to advance household self-sufficiency. And it pays for a small portion of the point in time count. Those are all well ahead of the next budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further hands raised. Georgia, will you please call the roll on the amendment?
Yes. Counselor Simpson.
Aye.
Counselor Rosenthal.
Aye.
Counselor Gonzalez.
Aye.
Counselor Nolan.
No.
Counselor Lewis.
Aye.
Counselor Wong.
Aye.
Council President Peterson.
Aye, the motion passes. Thank you. Now we'll go on to the actual resolution itself, Resolution 265567. Councilors, any further discussion on the resolution as amended?
Sure.
Councilor Rosenthal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to get a little philosophical here. I think we're at a watershed point, and first of all, I want to thank Councilors Wong and Gonzalez for their work on coming forward with this structure for the RPOC, and I also want to acknowledge the leadership of President Peterson for keeping the regionalization, the need for a regional approach in front of everybody for over the last several months. When we started this process about 5 years ago, we were pretty much babes in the woods. We started with aspirations and not a lot of knowledge, and we've gained a lot of knowledge. I also want to thank I want to thank the counties, and I want to thank all the stakeholders for all the input they provided. Sometimes it's different opinions on different subjects, but I think it's led us to this point where we realize we need a stronger structure to manage the process, or to at least provide input to the process, to provide input to the council. And I think that this moves forward in that direction. I think we can look forward. I think it's quite a task. I'm a little concerned that we're asking the RPOC to do a little, perhaps more, and I would be cautious in some of the later therefores. We say that the RPOC will develop and recommend, and I think that has to be taken with a little bit of a grain of salt. They're not going to be a technical committee that is going to have the ability to do the development. They're going to have to rely on others, such as Metro staff, such as various technical expertise, whether it's scientific or whether it's educational, on how to do some of these things, such as continuous improvement, such as corrective action plans, programs. There's going to be a lot of feedback and a lot of input on all of these. So I think we have set them a hard task. I've had some comments from people saying this is maybe asking them to do more in a quicker time than they may have the ability to do. But the thing that I've always advocated for is let's move forward with this process, and I appreciate this resolution. What we are approving now may be changed, and if we are successful in continuing the SHS program and finding a way to extend it for another 20 years, I think we're going to realize that we're going to have to be adaptive as we move forward. The problems will change, the needs for solutions will change. So I think we're, like I said, at a watershed moment. There's more to come and more decisions to be made, but I think we can work with all of our, as I said before, I think we can work with the stakeholders and the counties, realizing that there's an art in balancing the regionalization with the needs of the local populations, the local counties. They each have their own structures, their own needs, and we've learned this very clearly. So this is a good start, and it's going to be a lot of work for the RPOC.
Thank you. Councilor Huang and then Gonzalez.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to express my deep appreciation to all my colleagues for all your feedback and advice. I think we have a better product, and I just want to extend deep appreciations to all our partners. It's been a pleasure to work with you all. We had a lot of back and forth. There was a lot of discussion amongst all the partners, with our legal staff, with our housing team. And it really did feel like we had to wrangle a lot, but I think we're kind of coalescing around a shared vision of where we want to get to. I know it's, to Councilor Rosenthal's point, it's ambitious. We got a lot to do, but we're not going to shy away from that. And I think we're going to lean in and build the best system that we can. So again, appreciations to everyone, and this is just the start. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Gonzalez.
Yeah, thanks, President Peterson. I want to echo what Councilor Wong just mentioned, and I want to, specifically give him a lot of credit and praise as well for working with staff and really doing the heavy lifting on synthesis to create this incredible body of work. I feel tremendous gratitude to the stakeholders, folks that came to testify today as well, to lend their voice in this. And I know for some of the letters that we received, it feels like we might be moving quickly, or engagement was not up to par. But I think that this has been 2 years of very intense work, and the themes that are popping up here are, I think, really battle-tested, clear alignment, clear consensus steps forward with this new oversight committee. And I just feel this tremendous urgency, not just from the folks that are stakeholders with the system, but from voters that really want us to get our act together, our investments together, to serve the souls that are suffering in our streets and in the system. And I think that needs to be our North Star and our mandate. And this new oversight body is going to have a lot of work to do, to Councilor Rosenthal's point. So I know I'm very much looking forward to all of the work and rolling up our sleeves to deliver on our promises.
Thank you. Any other comments? Well, this is my last meeting. And I feel like we have moved this reform effort into the best position we could for the next 5 years. Without the help of everybody in this room, we would not have gotten there. And it was a 2-year-long discussion. I think it is time to bring it to a close. The sooner we get started on the reforms, the sooner, again, the results on the ground. And I look forward to working with you all on the other side and being able to implement this, because it is important for everyone to understand that while we have 3 counties that have been working very hard to stand up programs, understand how to define the problem, how to define solution sets, we are stronger together. And the only way to get us together is to have definitions that are all the same, performance metrics that are heading us all in the same direction, even though we might find solutions that are different but get us to the same endpoint. So I'm really proud of all of the work that everybody has done on this council, in this room, and I can't say enough thank you to all of you that got us to this point, both the staff and every stakeholder and every person who's provided testimony and every person who's shared their lived experience with us. So I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you. And I will obviously be a yes vote on this measure, on this resolution. So, Georgia, will you please call the roll?
Thank you for your leadership, Madam President. I hope your fingerprints are all over this. We wouldn't be here without all your work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Councilor Lewis.
Aye.
Councilor Simpson.
Aye.
Councilor Wong.
Aye.
Councilor Gonzalez.
Aye.
Councilor Rosenthal.
Aye.
Councilor Nolan.
Yes.
Council President Peterson.
Aye. The motion passes. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. I think a round of applause. Awesome. Well, now we have other business to attend to. Counselor? Counselor Lewis needs to attend another meeting. We will see you.
I'm off to the Metro Mayors Consortium, and I would normally just disappear quietly, but I need just one moment to thank you, Madam President, for your friendship, for your leadership, your mentorship, and the change that you've made here. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We will move on to resolution number 26-5573 for the purpose of amending the Metro Affordable Housing Bond Work Plan to delegate authority to negotiate and approve revisions to the local implementation strategies to the Chief Operating Officer. This resolution is related to housing, this time concerning the 2018 Affordable Housing Bond Measure, not the SHS. The structure of the bond relies on strong partnerships with local implementation partners, and in order to receive funds, each of our partners develops an implementation strategy. This resolution was intended to ensure that the program can respond nimbly to changing conditions while maintaining accountability for outcomes approved by voters. We have with us today Kristen Dennis, Metro's Chief of Staff for the Metro Council, here with us to describe the proposed change to the process for making administrative changes. Welcome.
Sorry, Carrie, do we have more? Oh. Sorry, thank you, Council President Peterson. Again, for the record, my name is Kristen Dennis, Chief of Staff to the Metro Council. Council, the resolution before you, you've seen it and have been briefed by staff. Essentially what it does is it creates a system where you all can, any changes to, where Metro can be more nimble as we find that there are changes that need to occur to the local implementation strategies with our affordable housing partners. It delegates authority to the COO under specific circumstances that they can make changes. And then it also directs the COO to consult with the Metro Council President for consistency as well. Happy to answer any questions.
Yeah. Any questions for Kristen on the changes? Oh, Councilor Rosenthal.
Yeah, when I was reading this, and I think I agree with the intent, but I read it and I understand what is not included in the kind of things that having to do with certain kinds of, housing implementation and so forth. But considering we're at the end of the process, in other words, we've allocated most of the monies, or in fact, it's been committed, and we're in the process of, I think, final constructions. What kind of IGA amendments, I was a little unclear as to what kind of IGA amendments do we actually anticipate?
I don't have specific information about with me currently about changes that are going to need to be made. We do know that there have been some requests that have been put forward that have been discussed by some of our housing partners kind of in the past and then moving into the future. And the idea is that we do not want to have any of the capital stacks put in any sort of danger by any delays based on kind of adjustments in contracting, adjustments in the way the federal rules are in particular are being enforced and applied. And that's where most of the challenges are in the uncertainty. So this is kind of a newer level of uncertainty because of the changes at the federal level. And so we just want to make sure there's enough flexibility to make sure that we can deliver on the projects that are already kind of in the pipeline, ready to be delivered. So we know what the projects are.
So primarily you're saying that we don't understand what's going to happen with federal rules. Those could change and we may have to make adjustments. I mean, I just hope that we're not going to adjust the IGA so we don't put, air conditioning. So we stop putting air conditioning in units and stuff like that, or we don't meet climate goals, or we don't meet things like that. But I understand.
Yeah, so great question. And just to be super clear, the direction to the COO is that they're supposed to apply, the general values and principles that we've had this entire time, but there might be some technical changes that need to be made to make sure that the funding that's already been allocated for projects continues to move through, making sure we have the same number of projects and units that kind of can be moved through.
Great. Thanks.
Any further questions? Seeing none, do I have a motion on resolution number 26-5573?
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved by Counselor Simpson and seconded by Counselor Rosenthal. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Georgia, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Counselor Rosenthal.
Aye.
Counselor Gonzalez.
Aye.
Counselor Nolan.
Yes.
Counselor Simpson.
Aye.
Counselor Wong.
Aye.
Council President Peterson.
Aye, the motion passes. Thank you. Thank you, Kristen. And we'll move on to resolution number 26-5582 for the purpose of allocating funds from the 2019 Metro Parks and Nature Bond Measure to the Willamette Cove Nature Park. I'm going to bring forward staff, but just for a note, we do have somebody that came in to testify on this, so I will make room on the agenda when we get to that point. But first, we had a council briefing last Thursday. Council approved the Willamette Cove Nature Park Master Plan, actually, to fund construction of the park. We will today consider a proposal to allocate funding from the 2019 Parks and Nature Bond Measure, and we are joined by our Deputy Chief Operating Officer, Andrew Scott, to go over what's included in this resolution. Thank you.
Great. Good morning, President Peterson, Council. I'm Andrew Scott, Deputy Chief Operating Officer. I'll just open up. We're very excited that Council approved the master plan for Willamette Cove last week, and we're excited to keep making progress on this important community asset. As you'll recall, and you know, in 2020, Council passed a resolution ensuring that Willamette Cove was eligible for funding from the 2019 Parks and Nature Bond. In 2021, Council reserved $10 million of that bond funding for Willamette Cove. The bulk of that funding is being held to cover the environmental cleanup costs. However, about $1.1 million of that $10 million had been available and has been available to help develop the master plan. At this point in time, we estimate that about $15.6 million more will be needed to complete the design, engineering, permitting, and construction of the nature park. The funding plan that we've been working on and have developed over the last year includes the following sources. The bulk of the funding will come from bond proceeds. I think we've briefed most of Council recently on the available bond interest and premium, which at this point is roughly $33 million. Council has previously established that bond earnings could go to two programs, one, protect and restore land, and two, taking care of metro parks. And as I noted earlier, Willamette Cove is an eligible project for use of those bond proceed funds. And then any remaining funding could come from the Bonds Trails program. A portion of this nature park would be eligible for that, along with potential grant opportunities. Today's resolution directs the COO to ensure there is sufficient funding for Willamette Cove by allocating $15.6 million from bond earnings and other allowable bond programs. And given our current cost estimates, we believe this will be sufficient to complete the project. I'm happy to take any questions. We also have John Blasher and our project manager, Jennifer Devanzo, as well.
Thank you, Andrew. Council, any questions for staff on the resolution? Councilor Rosenthal.
Yeah, thank you. As you know, I've been very supportive of the Willamette Cove project. And usually I find myself in an opposition. Usually I complain because there's too many whereases. In this case, I look at it and I go, it says that we committed to buy the property, but there's no whereas that says we actually purchased the property or when we purchased it. So it's like, that wouldn't have been a bad thing. And it identifies the 10 million we committed, but it doesn't talk about the cleanup and completion of the cleanup evaluation and identification of what is necessary to move forward with the comprehensive plan, which was all sort of antecedent. So I'm not going to say I would disapprove of this resolution as it is, but I can think of a bunch of whereases that went forward. And then my one question is, in looking at the be it resolved, if we're allocating 15.6 million from the bond issue, I'm a little unclear what the last phrase in the second one says, along with other allowable bond programs. Does that mean we're not allocating 15.6 or we are allocating up to 15.6 if we don't have additional programs to provide funding? You mentioned the Trails program. I mean, if we allocate 15.6, does that mean we're just creating whatever other monies we want? I'm not sure what that means.
So we're allocating $15.6 million from the bond, and the language is intended to make sure that we can pull it from the appropriate bond programs where it can come from. So the bulk of the funding will come from bond proceeds. Although I want to be clear, that's a two-step process, so council still needs to allocate those bond proceeds, which is an action Parks will be bringing back to you at some point in the future. Those bond proceeds can go into two programs, Protect and Restore, taking care of Metro Parks. Willamette Cove is eligible for money from taking care of Metro Parks. It's also eligible for stabilization money from Protect and Restore lands. And then because there's a regional trail that runs through there, a portion of the trails funding from the bond can be used for Willamette Cove as well. So the purpose of that language is just to say, we're not, council is not directing us to take it from a particular program. They're saying $15.6 million of the 2019 bond needs to be set aside. And I want to be clear, it's not up to, it's $15.6 million. If we don't use it all, we can come back and allocate it for something else, but it is $15.6 million to be allocated from appropriate bond programs.
The way I read it is we wouldn't have been restricted anyhow. We could have just say we're going to get 15 from allowable bond programs, and we would have been easily set. It just had me a little, shall we say, nonplussed, but that's okay.
As for your comment about whereases, I think we had a lot of whereases in last week's resolution adopting the nature park, and so I think this one also refers back to that action that council took. So, in the interest of brevity, we weren't sure we needed to repeat all of those again in this resolution this week.
What year did we actually purchase Willamette Cove?
1996.
Okay.
Okay, Councilor Nolan.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I want to just briefly recall that this resolution in front of us certainly started in 1996 when Metro, long before any of us sat in the chairs we sit in, purchased the property. But more recently, my immediate predecessor really made a push to get this need and opportunity on the Metro Council's agenda. And I appreciate that that wouldn't have happened without the leadership and encouragement of President Peterson. Sam Chase, who represents, Willamette Cove is in District 5, which he represented and now I represent. And the coming together of technical and political and neighborhood and civic and tribal consultation and history was complex. And I just want to publicly appreciate the work that Sam did and that you, Madam President, did as well to make sure that this happened. And I'm delighted that we have an opportunity to pass this before you leave us for your next adventure. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other comments? I just want to say again, thank you on this as well. The opportunity that the bond has left us to be able to push this forward. But before I go any further, I would like to open it up for public testimony, and then we can have a motion and move forward from there. So Georgia, will you please?
Oh, yes, I'm happy to.
Give us
I'm
the
gonna go
procedures.
speed run. Okay, if you're testifying in person on resolution number 26-5582, now is the time to do so. If you're in person, please sign up by filling out a blue card in the back of the room and bringing it up to me. If you are testifying on Zoom or by phone, please sign up by using the raise hand function in the reactions or more menus or by dialing *9. When it is your turn to testify, I'll call your name or phone number. For those on Zoom, click accept to be promoted to a panelist. Your Zoom window will close briefly before you rejoin as a panelist, and you can turn on your camera if you'd like. Testimony is limited to 3 minutes, and the timer begins when you begin speaking. Please state your name for the record before testifying. You do not need to give your physical address. And Council President Peterson, we do have one person who has signed up to testify in advance, and that is John Charles.
Is it afternoon? No, good morning. Nice to see you.
Thank you, Council President. members of the council. My name is John Charles, Cascade Policy Institute. And I'd like to offer a few comments about this funding package today before you vote on it. Just for a reminder that in December of 2000, EPA identified Portland Harbor as a Superfund site. And DEQ established remedial action for hazardous waste cleanup of the Cove uplands. So that really turned the Cove into a liability. It's not an asset anymore, and it creates substantial long-term risks for you that I don't think have been fully vetted. The resolution before you authorizes $15.6 million from the 2019 bond, but there's no mention of how to pay for the operations and maintenance costs. And the staff report from last week stated development of a nature park will also include clarifying the long-term operations and maintenance costs. Current revenues do not cover O&M costs across the entire park system, so additional operations and maintenance revenue demands will strain the system. This is not a new problem. Metro Auditor Suzanne Flynn noted in her audit of April 2012, quote, more clarity is needed to strategically plan what maintenance will be done, who will do it, and how it will be funded. I believe this problem of how you're going to pay for that should be addressed now before you commit at least $15.6 million. Other risks identified in the master plan. Long-term monitoring for in-water cleanup will be conducted in perpetuity. That's a long time. Upland remediation will require a CAP inspection and maintenance plan and a community outreach plan. Where will that money come from? Remedial actions occurred in 2015 and 2016 when soils with the highest risks to human health of dioxins and furans were removed from the upland area. Excavated areas were subsequently replanted with native vegetation. But, according to the master plan, despite these actions, contamination remains throughout the site and within the river, continuing to pose risks to human health and the environment. At the time of writing, the cleanup plans are still being developed. The final conditions of the site after remediation remain uncertain, and therefore the master plan will need to be applied flexibly in order to respond to these unknown conditions. Question for the council. What if costs increase substantially from all of the uncertainty and unknowns, which they tend to do in Superfund remediation projects? The proposed budget includes no contingency for construction. Finally, the current site includes 1,682 trees larger than 1.5 inches in diameter, and 80% are native, which is great. But remediation will require removal of all trees on the site. So there won't be any nature in the nature park for at least 30 years, and the Cove itself is not even a natural feature. As the master plan notes, the Cove owes its existence to site alterations made in the industrial era, most notably the building of the BNSF abutment and associated dredging. So to summarize, this is a man-made water feature with industrial contamination that may or may not get cleaned up adequately, with 27 acres of land that will soon be stripped of all vegetation. Back in January at a work session, Councilor Wong mentioned some ways of getting around the problem of O&M costs, including possible jurisdictional transfer. I just wonder if you've considered transferring this, say, to Portland, which has a levy that has a rate 14 times bigger than yours, or maybe transferring it to a consortium of Native American tribal nations.
Mr. Charles, when you wrap up.
As fiduciaries, you could be held personally liable if things go sideways. So I suggest that there's no rush to judgment on this today. You've already had it for 30 years. And you might want to do some further due diligence on these risks before you make what will be probably just a down payment of $15.6 million for this toxic waste site. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Council President Peterson, we don't have anyone else who has signed up to testify.
Thank you. With that, I'll close public testimony on this item, on this resolution, and come back to the council for a motion on the resolution.
President Peterson, if it's okay, I would like to make a motion to approve
Thank you.
this resolution, and it's, I guess, a formality or some kind of ceremonial thing. But would love to dedicate it to you. And I know this has been a huge priority that you've worked on, threading the needles with so many partners to help reclaim this area and give it back to community. So I appreciate you. So I motion to approve the resolution.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved by Councilor Gonzalez and seconded by Councilor Simpson. Any further discussion? Okay, well then I will have a closing comment. I just want to thank not the entire team at Parks for getting us to this point, for our deputy COO and our COO and our entire legal team, because this is a very complex project, as Mr. Charles pointed out. It has a complicated history and does contain risks, but I think this council is completely aware of and understands the risks moving forward. And one of those risks is that we had made commitments to this community and had not followed through on it in some time. And we are closing that gap and bringing this home so that we can open this area safely up to the community that has already been using it in an unsafe manner, no matter how many signs we put up. So I'm glad to get it to this point, and I will be so excited to be there at the ribbon cutting in a few years when we can get to that point. Because of course it will take quite a bit of effort to get ready. The prep for the site is I was going to say humongous. I haven't used the word humongous in a very long time. Must be a Midwest term. But it's large and daunting, but getting this kind of commitment will certainly move us forward in the right direction. And, you know, I think we're done planning to plan on this site. I think it's time to actually start moving so that we can enjoy it now, not 20, 30 years in the future and leave it to somebody else. So with that, Georgia, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Counselor Simpson.
Aye.
Counselor Nolan.
Yes.
Counselor Wong.
Aye.
Counselor Rosenthal.
Yes.
Counselor Gonzalez.
Aye.
Council President Peterson.
Aye, the motion passes. Thank you. I forgot a whole bunch of other people that were also included in this work. And I just wanted to do a shout out to, I'm not going to remember all names, so I'm going to look for some help here. But also Paul Slyman, who worked on this project, and he had a team of folks that I am not recalling off the top of my head. I hate to put you all on the spot, but that really helped accelerate and work with our parks team and the community to get it to this place where we could make this kind of commitment.
And Allison.
Yes.
On the Willamette Cove team, as well as John's entire team, John Blasher's entire team at Parks that's been supporting that work. We also have quite a few communications and public engagement folks who have been doing the really hard work of getting out there, holding community events, tabling, and just really educating the community about the dangers and the necessity to clean the parcel up. And also just, you know, including community and deciding, you know, how we can move forward together, you know, and I think the team has done an incredible job of integrating kind of all the different complexities and presenting something that balances the risks and the opportunities that we have out there. So I know I'm probably forgetting some folks too, but the Parks and Nature team has really come through.
Just know we're very appreciative.
Absolutely.
Of being able to get to this point with that. All right, we have no other business before us, so COO communication.
Thank you. Just a preview, Councilor Gonzalez knows this, but our Future Vision project is going to be moving into a public engagement phase, and part of that public engagement is going to be a community-wide survey. So I would ask counselors and also staff to be thinking about where we can distribute. We're going to have materials, we're going to have barcodes that people can scan to take it. This is something that we want as much involvement as possible. We want as many people in our community to take the survey as we can possibly get. So that's coming. Let that marinate, and then when we are officially launching that survey, we'll circle back with you and figure out how we can partner to get the survey links and the survey materials to folks in your community and your districts.
Awesome. It's exciting.
Thank you.
Counselors, any communication? Counselor Rosenthal?
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I just want to, regarding Willamette Cove, I think we also should thank the tribal partners for being actively involved in this process and taking it seriously and realizing that they have very serious concerns regarding the fate of the Willamette River and its usage. And then I want to channel Councilor Lewis, since she's not here, attended the Women of Influence luncheon yesterday. It was, again, a very large presentation, a large number of people, very successful, very enthusiastic. From my standpoint, I learned a lot. There's a lot more people doing, a lot more women doing a lot more important things than I had realized in my narrow little confines out there in the country. And so I found it very interesting. Not only that, the COO was present, as well as our entire P5 and the OCC and Expo staff were there. So we were well represented, and I think we all enjoyed it.
Thank you. Any other comments? Announcements?
Just need to take a second. Okay, well, it's been shared. I think a few folks have touched on this, but President Peterson, this is your last meeting as Metro Council President. And the thank yous have been flowing all week. But again, just want to say thank you. We're going to miss you. You're going to do an amazing job in Lake Oswego. I am very grateful you're going to stay in the region with us. A lot of big problems for us to keep tackling. But hats off to you and your incredible track record here at Metro. And thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Councilor Simpson.
Absolutely. Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to extend my gratitude and thank you to your time and service to our region. I can remember being a fresh new counselor on the council and you mentoring and giving me a few pointers here and there. But ultimately, I think you're going to leave a legacy that one can be proud of. And I'm looking forward to working with you out in Lake O when I meet with all the city manager folks. So good luck to you.
Thank you. Councilor Nolan.
Thanks, Madam President. I'd like to echo the gratitude and admiration that others have expressed and the sincere good wishes in your new endeavors. I'd like to recall also that you have not always taken a common path. And as one scientist to another, I'm sure you and I have shared experiences throughout our training and careers of being the only woman in the room or being asked why we're in a room that historically had only contained men. You're bold, you're compassionate, you bring an ability to look at things from angles that might not be commonplace. And I know that those skills and perspectives will serve you well with Lake Oswego and wherever your professional career leads you. Good luck, good journey.
Thank you. Much appreciated, everyone. I just wanted to take a moment and talk a little bit about that as I prepare to go into this next chapter of my life. I want to pause and say a heartfelt thank you to all the people who make Metro work. This has been a great council to work with. It's actually rare to have a council this close, and pulling mostly in the same direction. And when we aren't, we find a way to make it work, even even through even if there's some waves, right? And I'm really proud of how we've handled tough situations. This is the second time I've worked at Metro in my career, spending my early career here as an intern and a travel demand forecaster and transportation planning under the old council and an elected COO form of government. It was a very formative experience to watch your electeds not get along at that time because roles and responsibilities weren't clear. And so it's been nice to be here in this new and improved version. And it made me want to come back and be part of it. Serving as Metro Council President has been a great honor, not because of the title, but because of everyone that I have worked with here at Metro. Every day I saw the care, the rigor, the creativity, and the persistence that you have brought to serving the region. Metro's reputation for professionalism and public purpose exists because of you, not just us. As I look back, my memories are not really of passing legislation, except for maybe today, which was actually monumental and I don't think planned, but of setting up for an event with staff at the convention center, checking the gas lines at the St. John's landfill, painting stripes for the drive-in movies at the Expo Center, cleaning grills at Blue Lake Park, and picking up trash with RID during COVID. That's what makes Metro special. I've also served next to some of the best elected officials in the region. I can't tell you how much I appreciate your perspectives and what you've taught me, because it's been a two-way street. I have learned so much. And we put together a great team in our staff. It's been a pleasure to serve with both you, Marisa and Carrie. I have again learned so much from both of you on how to be the best elected official I could be and figure out with you how to get the shit done, right? So I'm really, really happy about all the things we've accomplished, and we don't need to go through all of that, but the success of Metro is not driven by any one elected official in this position. It is driven by the planners, the operators, the scientists, the analysts, the communicators, the rangers, the technicians, the administrators, the zookeepers, the volunteers, and the leaders who believe that regional government can and should work and make life better for our people in this region. As I leave, my hope is that you continue to trust your expertise, support one another, and stay grounded in the purpose of Metro, which brought you to public service in the first place, and continue to remain flexible on how to achieve our goals and bring all the region with you. As my mentor said, make sure you're always looking behind you to make sure somebody's following. I think we can kind of get ahead of ourselves with great ideas, but we quickly figure out how to build a coalition behind us to make it happen, and that is a testament to everybody in this room, and as Councilor Gonzalez has been saying, it's our superpower. So thank you for your partnership, your honesty, your resilience, and your commitment to the region. I will always be proud to have worked alongside you, and I will be cheering Metro on and probably calling for a grant in the near future. With that, thank you. And we are adjourned, seeing no further discussion. Oh, but Councilor Rosenthal would like to make the last.
I did have my hand up, and I just want to say, as you're leaving, I want to appreciate your intelligent approach to regional governance and the fact that you've always had a strong sense of values about the regionalization and regional approaches to governance in this area. So, and I wish you well in your keep Lake Oswego safe and progressive.
Thank you. I guess I'll just close with the tattoo on my back. Alus Vela Propris.
Whatever.
She flies with her own wings, which refers to local government, not the feminine that most people think, but it has a great dual interpretation, in my opinion, that the best place to lead is at the local level, where you can actually work with the people and move dirt, get it done, and see the results. So thank you.
Love it.
With that, seeing no further discussion, We are adjourned, and your next regular meeting is scheduled for March 17th, 2025 at 10:30 a.m. Have a great evening.
Recording stopped.